Welcome back to See It and Feel It with Dr. Brett.
Yeah, those internal doubts, I think, as an athlete are the most dangerous because you're trying to be.
And how do you banish those doubts? Like, how do you work on that? Tell us, what your secret is there.
I used to think like you have to try to not think about the negative things, and it's like you would get so anxious about not thinking about negative things. Is when something came up, you were like, oh, it's there, and then you're like, your heart rate goes up.
We've talked about this like in terms of a meditation process, right?
Absolutely.
In meditation, you're not trying to not think, you're coming back to your focus, the breath or whatever, the mantra, chakra point. So that's where you...
And to my point, like so the mindfulness has been huge because you're not like trying to not think about a negative thought. You're just noticing that you're having a negative thought.
Perfect.
And it's like the ultimate feedback. I think that, like, feedback is so important for my golf practice. And I didn't understand until like we really started hitting the meditation and the mindfulness and the breath work really, really hard, how much more feedback you get, especially with the mindfulness. So it's not like you're not trying to like not have a negative thought. You're just trying to notice when it happens. And you do it enough times, you start finding patterns and you're like, oh, well, this happens because of this. And like, if I can work on this, I won't have to deal with this quite as much.
Yeah. So it's amazing how we can start to identify like these little triggers, right? And the patterns like you're talking about, and noticing how there's this sort of tendency of the mind to then drift or focus on negative. And then what you're doing in mindfulness is you're noticing that you're not beating yourself up for it, right? And you're coming back to whatever your focus is, the breath, a mantra, or the clouds or the sky. You know, have you been doing any of that, like in terms of like the environment, the sky or the trees? So, how do you do that when you're in competition?
Like when I'm in competition, especially the first couple holes where I'm trying to get into the round and settle down. Let's say I hit a wedge shot into a green and I'm playing with 3 other players and I'm the closest one. So you mark your ball and you clean it and you let them, you know, unless like someone is putting in your line and then you want to kind of get a read from them. But you kind of walk away from the green, like a couple of paces off the green into the rough or wherever, and you just look up into the sky and you just like breathe and you just look at the clouds, or you like follow a plane for a while and you just get really external, like really external. You look at how the wind's blowing with the trees, or you know, whatever. You just get very external, something external up in. I like to look up in the sky.
When you're observing nature, though, what you're really doing, though, is the mind activity then comes way down, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like you're letting go of thought that way.
For sure, yeah. Absolutely.
And then when you don't have all those jumbled thoughts, because a lot of times they're jumbled, right? It's like, then it's easier to do whatever you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. What advice do you have for you know, kids that are, you know, playing with the idea of wanting to be a professional in some way? What would you tell like a 12-year-old or something?
And it's funny because might be easier for a 12-year-old or like a younger person to do it, but like tell people about it, like verbalize it, you know, make an intention, and be as specific as you can. Like literally put a date on it. Brandon and I were talking about. Brandon is he's trainer,
friend, and
the fit. I've been putting together a team of guys because, and that's was going to be my second point is get as much help as you possibly can. Like ask for help, pay for the best. Don't try and be like, well, you know, these 2 guys are both good, but this one's a little bit cheaper. It's like, well, just invest in yourself.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
But you know,
and that's almost a tenacious quality, though, right? The desire to put the team together and do it
absolutely.
Right.
But Brandon's my fitness trainer, and we made a specific date, like of what we're trying to do. I'm trying to earn my status to the PGA Tour. You know, that's the biggest goal of all, right? And like, how do we do that? Well, I need Corn Ferry Tour status because that's how you get on the PGA Tour.
Right. So the tour below the PGA Tour
is And that's how you get your way onto the PGA Tour. So we literally set a date. We're like, okay, August. I'm forgetting now.
Yeah, in front of the camera, it's hard to
So
have a
specific.
date. Dates are tough in front of cameras.
They are, yeah. I think it's August 30th, 2022.
All right, there we go.
Perfect. Full Corn Ferry status.
Nice. Fantastic.
And now, you, me, Brandon, and the rest of the team, we fill in the blanks.
Nice. I love it. And also, like, you starting to compete more and more, right? We've talked about that, right? Yeah. The more you compete, the more comfortable you get.
Absolutely.
Tell us about some of the qualifiers along the way, what some of the lessons you've learned.
Yeah. I've played in a lot of qualifiers, a lot of events. I think the best thing you could do is like forget it. Is have a short memory in golf.
Yeah. Amazing.
Because you're gonna play poorly if you play as much as I do. If you play as much as any professional is gonna play, like you're gonna hit bad shots. They're gonna happen.
Although I'm not sure Tom Watson ever hit a bad shot for probably 10, 15 years. That's my guess. There's probably a few people out there that, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just saying, like, there are some ball strikers that seem to have something else.
It seems like that, but it's not. No. Everyone hits bad shots. Tiger Woods is
he definitely does
the best. The best golfer who's ever lived. Him and Jack Nicklaus. You can argue till you're blue in the face. Right. They're both the best.
Right.
In his best season ever, the 2000 season, there's 12 to 15 shots between his best round of the season and his worst round of the season.
Yeah.
And he was the best, most consistent, most often winner who's ever lived.
Yeah.
And he hits bad shots.
For sure.
And it's going to happen. If you are doing something every single day, all day, every day for your life, it's going to happen. And the best thing you could do is have a short memory and take some feedback from it and then forget about it and move on.
Right. Really well said. And not beat yourself up.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Which I could be better at.
Yeah. So, because that's like the hard part for a lot of people that are either intense or driven is there's a tendency to be self-critical, right?
Yeah.
And to learn to not beat yourself up because, like, where's the value, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Learning, yes, but pounding of the self, no, right? So that's definitely a component here.
Yeah.
What are you curious about? What do you want to ask me? Or what else do you want to share while we have you here? Before we go grab dinner.
When I sit here and talk about these things, it's funny. It's like, I know all these things, and then you sit here and talk about it, and you remind yourself of all the things that you are really good at. Like I sit around and I get critical of myself a lot, but when I sit here and talk about all the work that we've done and I have done since being back at South Kent, it just reminds me of like how far we've come so far.
Fantastic.
And how good I've gotten at some of these skills. So I'm really excited about like a lot of the work we've done.
Awesome. And this mental toughness thing that you're referring to and talking about, tell us a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah. I guess for me, I could put it into like a couple different categories. With mental toughness, some would be emotionally, some would be like with like my craft, like playing my sport and trying to perform under pressure. So I know that is both emotional, but like the emotional with personal life and relationships, you can't perform under pressure if you don't have things going well in your life. And you don't.
So well said.
If you're not talking to people, ignoring something, stressing out about those things, you're not going to be able to do the things that you want to do because you're going to be constantly worried about all of that. And so when I first came to see you, it was, a little after boarding school, during the beginning of my transition from playing serious competitive golf to trying to be a professional.
Right.
And I hadn't touched a lot of the emotional, a lot of the mental stuff. I hadn't even really considered too much of it. I was just like, well, you're an athlete. Like you can tough your way through it. Like, who cares if you like play good golf, but then go home and like, want to like
smoke too much or drink too much or whatever it is
to like oblivion, or like try and kill you,
or not deal with some woman.
I used to jokingly like, when it was with my friends, be like, yeah, well, I'm just trying to like kill those memory cells. Those fuckers are hard to kill. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be joking, but like I was a little serious. Like,
Yeah.
So going through
Yeah.
that has been really important. And I can see a correlation between like how my personal life has been going and how my
Golf life is gone.
life and skills
right.
have transitioned to
Right.
like really like world class.
Wow, that's so fantastic. So again, the metaphor is, which we've talked about from the beginning, is like you put your whole life together, right? Especially you want to have this personal life so that it's freer, right?
Yeah.
It's flowing, it's not caught up, right?
Yeah.
The zero dramas and the zero distractions are close to it.
Yeah, and it gives you
Right.
it gives you a ton of perspective, like when you're playing too. It's like
Wow.
I dealt with all that like stuff. So like if I hit this ball in the water, it's like
Yeah, it's okay.
whatever. It's just,
Right.
it's
You
just
gotta
a golf ball.
take
and
your
I'll-
stroke
yeah,
or whatever.
I'm gonna hit more
Try
shots.
and get up and down for par. Something like that.
Yeah. You're just like, what, I've dealt with all these things that used to paralyze me, like when I'd sit there at night and not sleep and like
Right.
ruminate around at night, being like, well, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to
Yeah.
deal with that? How am I going
Yeah.
to do this?
Yeah, it's amazing how like tackling your emotions, like how important it is,
Yeah.
right? To
It gives
Like-
you such a better quality of life.
yeah,
You're just like much happier.
Yeah.
Like, you want to do things.
Yeah.
Like, you want to work out again. That makes you feel good too.
So you're telling people not to avoid in their personal
don't-
lives
yeah.
or anywhere,
Yeah.
basically. No more avoidance, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
If I had to like pick two things to make you like more successful, because who am I to say that anyone's successful or not successful? I'm just saying, what could you do to be more successful than you are right this second? It would be not avoid things and just communicate.
I love it. So not avoid things and just communicate. Kyle leads. Hey, I'm Dr. Brett. Thanks a lot. Welcome to See It and Feel It. Thanks for watching See It and Feel It with me, Dr. Brett. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, or share it with a friend.